You throw this in my purse. I don't want. That's what I don't want. So if you want baby shower games.
All right, folks. We're still getting the live stream stuff kind of figured out on the side, but this is my opportunity to go ahead and say, please, 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 please turn off or silence your phones. You don't want to be that person. I know the Mary J. Blige ringtone you have is amazing, but not for tonight. And we'll be getting started in just a few moments. And I see you guys are already enjoying amazing food. So we'll be right back.
Now everybody's looking at it.
Y'all good? Everybody's all right? I just came from a baby shower on Zoom, but it was intense. It was.
I was.
So I made it. I'm a little late, but that's the reason. I'm like, it was a lot going on. My homie was with me. Miss Sosie was there. She can. It was a lot going on, but we made it. I'm happy to be here. I guess we'll get started in a second. It's just that weird moment when everybody's staring at you. It's like you feel the need to say, you gotta say something.
So what are y'all eating? You know, tell us what's good today. Okay.
Chicken, no doubt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I recommend the catfish.
Mm-hmm.
Catfish.
I can't live without the salmon, without the blackened salmon. Yeah.
If you're vegan, they got the barbecue joints. That's really good.
Mm-hmm. The nachos are on point, whether they're vegan or.
Yeah. Both versions of nachos.
Yeah.
What are we waiting for?
I don't know.
Are we waiting for something? Are we good?
All right. It looks like I got the A-OK from our lovely tech guys. If you can just give them a round of applause right quick. And all right, folks, are we live? Awesome. Well, welcome to Busboys and Poets Books presents Jason Reynolds. I'm so excited to welcome you all here today. Yeah, make some noise. So my name is Lori. I'm the Director of Operations. My pronouns are they, them, and she, her. But enough about me, because obviously you guys aren't here for me. Without further ado, I'm here to introduce our lovely folks on stage. He don't need an introduction. He asked me to keep it short, so I'm going to. First things first, we've got Jason Reynolds, who's a #1 New York Times bestselling author, a Newbery Award honoree. Lots and lots of honors, and today we're here to go ahead and celebrate his most recent releases with STUNTBOY in the meantime. And I saw you here, STUNTBOY, and we're also celebrating And Burned All the Bright. With him today, we also have Jessica Smith-Hebron, who's also known as Culture Queen here in-house at Busboys and Poets. Miss Culture Queen served as Busboys and Poets' first children's cultural literacy ambassador in residence. She is also a Grammy-nominated teaching artist, children's musician, author, and arts manager who creates empowering entertainment for children. She's the founder of Culture Kingdom Kids, LLC, and she's here to go ahead and shine a light on these two incredible books. So without further ado, please help me to welcome Jason Reynolds and Jessica Smith-Hebron.
Okay, so I know he's humble, and I get that, but I just want you to snap or clap if you've read one of these books that I'm gonna lean out, because I just think it's real cool. Like, people who write books are the coolest people in the world to me. If you write a book, if you love to read, I just think it makes you super cool. It makes you kind of a superhero, which we'll get to later. So if you read, let me just see real quick. Snap, clap if you read When I Was the Greatest, or
those my real people. OG.
Yes. Who've been rocking with him since the beginning. All American Boys. Yes. The Boy in the Black Suit.
The best book I ever read.
Yes. Stamped. It's okay if you haven't read them. It's okay.
The most controversial book I've ever read.
Right. And it's, if you haven't read it, it's okay. You can just say that's the one I want to read. You know, we're not going to leave you out. We're inclusive, right? Yes, definitely. The Track series. Ghost, Katina, Sunny, Lou, Top bestseller at the book fair. Let me tell you, I saw the middle schoolers. It was flying off the shelf. I was like, man, everybody was taking their lunch money and buying his book. It was epic. Look both ways. And now we're getting to the newer one, STUNTBOY. In the meantime, and Ink Burn All Bright. My name is Jason. There are so many different books.
People gonna be mad if you don't say, how many of y'all read Long Way Down? You know what I mean? Like, that's a book I think that's the one that nowadays most people probably know. Spider-Man, of course.
Of course. See? Once you warm them up, he'll tell you all the books, right?
Yeah.
So, my first question for you is, I know they're all babies to you, but if you had to say the book that's like your baby, what's the book that's your baby?
There's two books that are really special to me in a different way. I mean, that's why Long Way Down I throw out, because that's the one that I think, but that's not the one that's the most special to me. Ghost is not one that's most special to me either, or All American Boys. The two that I love the most and that mean the most to me are As Brave as You and The Boy in the Black Suit. I personally think those are the best written books, which is book number 2 and 3. So I should probably get back to it. And I think the reason why is that when the reviews were all coming out for those books, the writers and the critics were saying, well, these are quiet novels, they're quiet novels. And really, they're just novels that are about sort of the interior lives of these young men in a way that I think is necessary. But, it's less about what's all the things that are happening and more about all the things that are happening in here. And I think they're the best to me, the most nuanced, the best written, and I think sort of the most worth it to spend a week or two to sit with these particular characters.
Okay, so you have your homework, right?
And if you're an adult, The Boy in the Black Suit, if you're an adult, that'll be the one you connect with probably more than anything I've written, if you're an adult.
So what was the book? Give us the juice, though. Let's start early with the juice. Yeah. What was the book that was the most challenging to write?
What was the book that was the most challenging? First of all, these books, so everyone is super challenging, right? This is sort of writing, 80, 90,000 words over and over and over again, right? So they're all, which is the reason why you'll never hear me talk bad about a book, anybody's book, just because even a bad book had to be written, and the amount of work it takes to do that is something that most people just don't get. There's a certain kind of persistence, there's a certain kind of obsession in certain ways. There's a lot of things happening for you to produce something that's 80,000 words, and so they're all pretty tough. I think that the hardest ones, when I think about just mechanics, I think of As Brave as You again. It was my first time writing for middle grade, and it was my first time writing in third person, and my first time taking it outside of a city setting there in the South in a rural environment. So that book was sort of a lot to sort of navigate, a different landscape to navigate. And to really delve into a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old and not a 16-year-old is a vast difference. And I'm closer to 16, obviously, than I am to 9 or 10, even though I feel like I'm 9 or 10 most days. So that one was tough. The other one, I think, Patina was I'm careful about calling it a tough book, but I think it was a book that I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder, because at that point, there were 5 or 6 books in the world, and I was doing all right. My sort of star was rising slowly. People don't know that it happened for me very slowly. I've been here for 20 years. I've been in the industry 20 years. And so that's why we laugh about oh yeah, Ghost. And it's I've been around
the 30-year
a long time before that. But I think Patina was interesting because people started to say, can Jason write a girl protagonist? And there was all this talk about just haters are haters. It was but would he be able to write a girl? Even though I'd already written all these girls as very close secondary characters in all of my books. If you know these books, you know that there are women around, moms and daughters and sisters and homegirls, and that's a big deal for me because that was my life. And so I took it upon myself to just kind of give everybody the proverbial finger, because I was a little upset and a little annoyed, because I think that the critique about, or the ask about can you write a girl, is really a dismissal of what young. And so it was a weird thing, but of course I can write a girl because girls are people too. So I'm 80% of the way already there. All right. The rest of this is just details. And so I went into Patina, and because I was so mad and so petty, the whole book, if you read that book, it's all girls. She go to an all-girl school. She got 2 moms. She got a little sister. She running on the all-girl relay. Right? It was like, I'm gonna show you. But then when I took it on, it was like, but you gotta be careful because it's so easy to slip into stereotypes. As a young boy who grew up with a bunch of young girls, it's like, yo, you want to be easy about how you want to portray these young women. Like, number one, a boy cannot be the driving force for any decision that is made in their lives. This is something that I had to decide, right? Like, no boys, no cat fights over boys, none of that nonsense. 2, they're going to be both, they can be both smart and athletic, like both of those things, right? And then also, we can still be honest about some of the unfairness of growing up a girl in America, which oftentimes means that you can't ever be girl in America, right? That unfortunately you all carry a weight that I will never know. And that started when we were kids. Growing up in my neighborhood, all the girls had to go inside early, not because of safety, but because they had to do things for their younger siblings that we never had to do. I could be 15 for the rest of my life if I feel like it. And that's the truth, right? And I wanted to make sure that I put some of that in Patina too, which is why her name is Patina. And those of you who know what a patina is, you know, leather, wood, brass, anything that once you wear it down, it shines a little more, right? That's what a patina is. And so all of that, so patina was a lot, and I was very focused, and one of my proudest moments.
Well, I know that book is about to fly off the shelf too, because you just did a book promo to that as well. And I want to talk a little bit. I know everybody in here is a super fan, but for the people who are a little new and the people who are also listening online, I do want to talk a little bit about your growing up, your background. We were talking, we're both 80s babies, and I think that makes you super cool. But tell me a little bit more about growing up in this area and some of the things that inspired you to write.
It was interesting. I grew up in Oxon Hill, and you know, it's a weird thing. Oxon Hill was a weird, and I'm so grateful for my upbringing, but Oxon Hill is a weird place. You know, there are these places. Here's the thing: that area, that county, is a fascinating place because if you talk to Black people about that county who don't live there, they'll say that it's the wealthiest population of Black people in America. But if you grow up in particular neighborhoods in that county, you're a little confused by that statement. Because if it's the wealthiest Black population, then why do we have why is 90% of our public schools Title I's? Why is it that when I grew up, you know, my mom and it wasn't a whole lot of that, right? It wasn't a whole lot of extra, that's for sure. But I did grow up in a household in an interesting neighborhood where we had a little bit of everything in and outside of the house. And I got to be around really interesting people. I come from a colorful family. You know, and some of you who have colorful families, you know what that looks like. You know what I mean? There are things that we are happy about, and there are other things that can become a bit annoying, a bit burdensome at times, but it's the complexity of who we actually are, and I'm proud of them all, right? So I had a father who was sort of this really interesting kind of bad boy, you know, motorcycles and tattoos, and he looked, God bless him, he looked just like me, right? So everything I became, I mean, like, I spitting him in the knee, if you've ever seen a picture of him, you know, like, you know, covered in tattoos in the 70s, right? So real kind of cutting edge in certain ways, you know what I mean? Then I had his mom who, you know, the first person to get a degree, the first person to buy a house, moves the whole family, right? Mother, father, her parents, her siblings, everybody lives in this house. They can save up to buy their houses, right? And I was around this maverick of a woman who was like working the job and doing all the things and trying to make sure that her sons didn't get caught up in what was happening outside. And then the rest of my family lives in the Northeast. And so you split time, you do your thing, and you cross the line, and you go to see your families who live over in Benton Road, and that's the other part of our lives. Everybody else in Harlem or in South Carolina, and that was that's my stew pot, right? A little bit of everything. And I think what my mother, more than anybody, I tell people all the time, my mom, and everybody who knows me knows that, like, I talk ad nauseum about this woman. Because she's the best, right? And I think what she gave me more than anything, a few things. One, she helped me understand that, like, I could do whatever I wanted to do. I couldn't go to sleep at night I couldn't get in the bed until I looked her in the face and said that I can do anything. Since I was a toddler, it was this mantra something drilled into myself head, right? Like you have to say that you can't get in the bed. It's like I can do anything. So when you turn like 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, I don't know no other way. Right? I'm just kind of like, I do what I want to do. It makes teachers mad. You know what I'm saying? It makes my mama mad too. But I'm also like, yo, but you made this. And it's frustrating for a moment, but it'll be the thing that'll pave my road if you just let me cook, right? Just let me do my thing. I'm gonna learn the rest of it. But like, I just know for a fact when I walk in this space, I'm in it. There's never a moment where I feel small in the world. And that's because of this woman. The other thing is she taught me that if I wanted to win, if I wanted to have just a little bit of an edge over everybody else, learn how to speak publicly. This was her thing. It was like, she grew up in the South, she grew up with nothing, she grew up struggling, did everything she could to change our lives and was able to do so. And in the midst of that, learned some valuable things. She was like, everybody phobia is the same. It's public speaking. So if you can do it, you can figure out how to engage publicly, then you'll have a little bit of an edge over most of your peers, right? You'll be able to move a certain way. And so I could disagree with my mom in the house. I could talk back. I grew up in a very progressive Black household where we could sort of talk back respectfully, but we can talk back and be like, I disagree. I think you're being mean. I don't think I deserve to be spoken to this way. And my mom would be like, okay, and also you're still in trouble, right? But I hear you, right? Sometimes she would apologize, right? And I can say anything I wanted to say as long as I said it like I meant it. Can't be no coward. So if you're gonna say it so I can hear you over here. If not, I'm gonna say, oh, you want to be your breath, you being slick. But if you got something you really want to say, stand on your square, open your mouth, pull your shoulders back, and speak your piece. And my mother, I think, for sure, I'm a naturally introverted person. This is what I was trained to do. My natural disposition is to be quiet in the house. This is what I was trained to do by this woman who knew that, like, yo, this is gonna be your golden ticket. If you can do this on top of anything else you do, you're gonna get a little bit of a bump, and you'll be able to make waves in the world.
And you do amazing at it. And let's give it up for this mom. And you know, we have a lot of work to do here. We have 2 amazing books, and I'm like, I don't know which one to start with first. I think I want us to start with this one first because I love superheroes. But you tell me which one you want to start with first.
It's all the same to me.
Yes. I think that the thing that was really captivating, if you guys get a chance to just like go online and watch Jason read this book, I was like, this book is gonna be the best movie, the best TV show. The kids, I know they're gonna love it. I just wanna talk about, the first thing is, number 1, who is your favorite superhero?
I mean, it's weird because I'm almost obligated to say Miles Morales.
Oh, sorry, this is awkward. You don't have to say that.
I mean, he up there though, yeah. You know
okay, that's fine. That's fine. Tell us a little bit of how you came to write the best superhero book in the whole entire universe.
Yeah, you know what? The pandemic did a number on me, like a lot of us. You know what I mean? And it put a muzzle on my creativity and kind of locked me up for quite a while. Just because I realized it's weird, right? You would have thought it would have been a writer's dream to be locked in the house. Oh, finally, you know. But it turns out that so much of my work is filtered through my sort of everyday life. The people that I talk to at the coffee shop, the kids that I see at the bus stop, you know what I mean? The schools that I go into, the teachers that I talk to, my mother, right? Not being able to touch my mom, being with my siblings, right? Little bros in college, big bros in Baltimore, it was just so weird. My sister, her kids, right? All of it was just strange where your juice comes from, like somebody cut your battery, you know? And I had started writing this novel because I also, look, this is the part about it, right? This is my job. And, you know, them contracts are what they are. And I had already been paid. So the publishers are expecting me to produce something, right? I don't want to ever pretend like that part of it ain't a part of it, right? Like the truth is, this is my job. Is it my passion? Thankfully. But it's my gig, right? And so like I owe the publishing companies a book, and I knew what I wanted to do, so it's not like that stressful because this is what I do every day. It's like, all right, I got you. Like I love this job, you know? So I'm writing a story about a 16-year-old boy whose parents are going through a divorce, right? That's the original version. I wrote 35,000 words this thing before I realized that this wasn't working. And the original story was about a kid whose mom was an architect, and they lived in a home that she built that was the shape of a heart. And her husband, they were going through a divorce, and he moved into a treehouse built in the backyard. And this little boy was sort of trying to, whose name is Portico, because his mother was an architect. And you know what a portico is, right? And it was all about sort of the rebuilding of a broken heart, right? In a very sort of real, visceral way, right? The home is broken. The home is the shape of a heart. The heart is broken. Our hearts are broken. And then this idea around architecture to rebuild the thing, right? That was the original premise of the book. It wasn't called STUNTBOY. I don't remember what I named it, but that was sort of where the character comes from. And I got 35,000 words in and realized that this was a drag of a book. It was like, this is the saddest story I've ever written. I just don't know if I could do it, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of young people who really love sad stories. It's a thing, right? There's a lot of young people who just be like emo and really sad. And I'm really, yeah, they really look at sadness, right? But I don't know if I could. I was like, I'm not sure I can make the thing. I don't know if I'm already in a pandemic and I'm locked in my house. I'm not sure I want to spend the next year sad writing about this thing. And I don't know if I have, in this moment, if I have the skill set, that I can access the skill set to add levity to this story in this moment. I don't know if I got it, right? So then I tried to read some things to shake myself loose. I couldn't read much. I don't know if y'all had this problem either. Like I couldn't read much during the beginning of 2020. I could read. I was struggling to concentrate. So I went to the bookstore and I bought all the Captain Underpants. True story. Because you can just, they're easy to read. So I bought all, I think 15 Captain Underpants books for like $40, right? I get home, I'm like, okay, I'm reading, I'm laughing, and I thought to myself, man, Dave Pilkey, who wrote those books, is a genius. And also, it's so unfair that he gets to corner that market. And lastly, these books, as brilliant as they are, they don't necessarily have an emotional layer, like a second layer. And they don't need to, by the way. I think they're genius as they are, right? And they've gotten millions of kids reading. I take my hat off to them. This is an homage to them, you know what I mean? But I was like, how can I do this my way? And there's no way that I can do this and not have some sort of second layer, like an emotional layer, just because I always want to show, specifically, I always want to show Black children, Black and brown kids with emotional layers. It's important to me. And so I aged the character down. I put them in an apartment building because it's still an interesting architectural structure. And then it contains the world because you don't ever have to have him leave the apartment because an apartment is a world unto itself. And also, we never see books about kids in apartments, which is wild because so many kids grow up in apartments. There's nothing wrong with it. And not every apartment is a project. You know what I mean? Like, it's this idea that you live in a place and live in a project. Like, also, what's wrong with living in a project? Just so we clear, right? Like, it is what it is. And so that was sort of the beginnings of the narrative.
The thing that I love about this book, I mean, you segue right into the thing I was going to talk about. You said something about that I want to make sure I read it right because you were like, I write to Black children. You corrected someone. I was watching, I don't know, one of something. And you were just like, it said, oh, you write for Black children. And he made Jason made this correction. He said, I write to Black children. I write for all children. And I thought that was such a unique difference. And I just wanted to, I'm so happy. It's interesting that you were talking about this book about Captain Underpants because, we all grew up reading like the chapter books and now we've got these graphic novels. I'm thinking for the girls, the Babysitter's Club, Sweet Valley High. That was like anyone filming here, that was like our thing, right? And then for the boys, we had Goosebumps. Well, for the girls too, Goosebumps. How to Eat Fried Worms. Yes, all of these different books for middle school and for older or upper elementary. And when I see this book, when I read it, I was just like, this is the book I wish I could have read. This is something I can connect to. I connected to the other books, but this gives me something that deeply connects to who I am. So tell us more about like writing to Black children versus writing. What's the difference between writing for and about versus writing to?
I think it's just about where I choose to direct my attention. Look, it's so weird being in any industry as a person of color. Specifically, in my case, as a Black person, just because it's a weird sort of struggle that you have to the expectation that you're representative of all Black people, right? which is something that a lot of us carry with us all the time. And like, I don't know, my shit, I can't get us all, right? But I am who I am, and unfortunately, there's a lot of us to be ourselves, and then we represent ourselves, right? But it's always like, hey, if you want to be in the spotlight, or if you have any sort of opportunity to present something that might be in the spotlight that represents us, if you got to represent all of us, right? Neither here nor there, but I guess that's an interesting thing, and I don't necessarily think that it has to be that way. The other thing, though, is that I think there's this pressure of like, whatever you do, just don't say you're right about Black people. Just don't be too firm in the fact that you don't have to be ashamed or embarrassed or making yourself small or figuring out a new language to say that you write about Black children. You see it all the time. Like, it makes me feel funny when I'm around people who are afraid to just say like, hey, I am who I am, and I want everybody to love these books, but please believe when I sit down, I'm thinking about my little brother, I'm thinking about, and I'm okay with that, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? I think people think something's gonna happen to them when their opportunity's gonna be cut, or like, and it's just real talk, right? People get real nervous about just being like, I'm a Black person, born and bred. My mama grew up in South Carolina in the 1950s and 60s. We come from that. I can trace it back to where we got our land from, right? But I can't go no further. And so because I am that person, and I come from a people who were never supposed to read and write, you best believe we'll get every bar I got about my babies, whom I love, who go through the kids. I just feel that I don't want to have an hour in that way. So when I say I write to Black children, it's simply about my intention, right? Like that I am thinking about you when I'm writing this story. Now here's the beauty of youth. The beauty of youth is, as a Black kid who reads this book, it does something to that kid. But if you're not a Black kid who reads this book, it'll do something for you too. You know why? Because kids are kids at the end of the day, right? I was in New York one time when Luke came out, the last of the track series, and there was a young man, a young white boy, raised his hand, and I called on him, and he's like, hey, Mr. Jason, I read all the books. I'm like, what is that? I'm like, thank you so much. And he's like, I got one question. I'm like, cool, what's your question? He was like, how come all your books, there's no white people, there's very rarely any white people in the books, right? And here's the thing, right? When he asked the question, it was wild to see all the adults get real uncomfortable, right? All the adults are squirming, right? It was like everybody's skin got tight, right? It was like a weird thing that was happening. Meanwhile, he's chilling. He's just sitting there like a matter of fact question. Like, he's like, this is an honest question. I'm not asking for any sort of reason that they all think I'm asking for. I'm asking because it just dawns on me that I don't think I recognize any child that I could identify as a white kid, right? First of all, I was proud of the young man for understanding that is a such thing, first and foremost, right? And not being like, I just default everybody to who I am, right? And second of all, I answered them honestly. And I was like, hey man, here's the thing. The truth is that where I grew up and how I grew up, I didn't grow up around no white kids. I grew up in an all Black neighborhood. That's all I knew. All Black neighborhood, all Black family, all Black schools. That was my life. And furthermore, it's okay for Black people to exist in this space. It's okay. It's okay for that, right? And then I say, does that bother you? And it's a public event. And now everybody's really uncomfortable. Everybody's waiting. Like, man, Jason gonna let us down there across the line. I'm like, y'all bugging. Because me and this young having a real moment here. But y'all have this child's integrity and intellect. And I haven't. So I'm gonna honor the question. Does that make you uncomfortable? And his response was very almost flippantly. Right? And that's the point, right? All of us are bugging out, and the kids are like, nah, this is a fine book. And the little Black kids who really like, yo, this is a book about me. And both of them are getting whatever they're getting from it, and everybody gets to win. I don't gotta water it down. I don't got, right? Like, that was a whole thing.
Just being showing up as who you are. And you know, that's the other thing I'm thinking.
And I like all the kids.
We know, it's fine.
I have to make this clear because I know it's being streamed. People like to twist me around. Here's the thing. Y'all all know what's going on with all the pain, the challenging, and all the things. I made it very clear as often as possible. There is not a child on this planet that I would do anything to intentionally harm. Ever. I don't care where you come from, or what your background is, or what your financial situation is. There's not a single child on this earth that I would ever do anything to intentionally harm. I got love for any child that exists, right? And my love and my intention about writing books about these particular kids has nothing to do with my love for the quilt and the blanket of children that's on this planet. And I don't ever want to be misconstrued, which everybody tries to do. So I wanted to make that very clear for the internet.
Make sure you got that in captions. It's dated and stamped. And we know that even if you didn't say that, we know that it's in your heart because it's in your words. It's not what I just like when I opened up this book, right? You can feel the love in the illustrations and in the words and in the way that it's written. I mean, there were so many choices that you could have made in writing this book, and the way that you made it, every single word, every little punctuation, there's love in it. So anybody who would try to come at you like that, like you said, it's a hater. We don't have time. So it's fine. But like STUNTBOY. So the name, the title, this superhero is different. Tell us what makes this superhero unsuperhero different from the other superheroes.
Yeah, he's, you know, I think it's the same thing with the Miles Morales book. It's something I'm curious about, I think about often. You know, when I was writing Spider-Man, I got to do what I wanted to do, and I was like, yo, his superpowers, if we add the cultural textures of his life, and Marvel created him as half black, half Puerto Rican, right? So black, you know what I mean? Shout out to all the people out there, you know. Those that don't know, you know what I mean? But you know, the one thing I wanted to make sure that I did in creating some cultural textures for this kid was to say that if he really grew up where they say he grew up, which is in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, right? And he's half black and half Puerto Rican, then there are certain parts of his superpowers that aren't actually superpowers. They're just his survival mechanisms because of his environment. So like if you grew up where I grew up or where a lot of us grew up or in any black community or in any city environment, or if you know folks who are in those spaces, you know Spidey Sense ain't no superpower. My mama gave me that as a young person to know, you know, 5 minutes before it happened that the bad thing is coming. I can walk in the room and my Spidey sense go off and I'm like, hey, we probably need to get up out of here, right? That's something that my mama gave me that. That wasn't no spider, right? You know what I mean? Or even thinking about survivor's guilt. What does it mean to be the only person in your family with superpowers? I think about this every day in my own life. What is it like to go home and you know that like the family looks at you a little differently because you got a little extra for whatever reasons, and you don't always feel worthy for having that superpower, right? Because you feel a little guilty because the people who gave you superpowers don't have them. They don't. That's real, right? I wanted to put that. So when it came to STUNTBOY, it was the same sort of concept. It was like, how do I take what most may see as a flaw or a weakness, like something like anxiety, and turn that into a superpower? Because that's what it is. For those of us who suffer from anxiety or live with anxiety, because I ain't really suffering from it, but it's in me, I live with it every day. And I know that like when I can feel myself getting anxious, there are lots of things that I can do. I can be hard on myself and be like, why can't you bring do what you need to do? Or I could be like, bro, it's probably something that you need to feel in this moment. Right? There's probably something around you. There's something that needs to be felt. Let yourself feel it. Right? I ain't not gonna be ashamed of. There's a lot of us who feel who act like we can't feel nothing. And I get to tell little boys, yo, it's all good to feel it, dog. It's okay for you to feel because you're a person. And if I can get you to feel now and to express your feelings, then you ain't got to punch nobody 5 years from now. Right? I ain't gonna get that call 10 years from now. Right? Like these are the things and that's your superpower.
That's the gift of the book. That you know, these are the big words: social, emotional learning. All these words that we hear in education, they go away and they come back, and then they're popular, and then they're not. But the thing that I'm seeing in this thing is you are giving these children the permission to feel their feelings in the way that he's giving them words to describe it. Yeah. I was just like I almost want you to it's the word. Read the book, buy the book, read the book. Okay. But the way that you described it, I have a 10-year-old in my class, and her parents are going through a divorce. Her stomach always hurts. So they go to take her to the gastro people, because they think, oh, her stomach hurts. She must have, no, she's going through anxiety. And so when I sent it to her mom and said, this is the book that maybe she's 10, they're going to a divorce, and she always says that her stomach hurts. There's a book for that. Yeah. You know, this is so she can put some words to her feelings versus just ginger ale. You know, like family, take some ginger ale.
When it first came out, I was trying to get people to understand that the book was meant to do two things simultaneously, right? To be something entertaining for the shorties, but also for the parents who are going through a divorce, right? For the parents who are dealing with it. This is the book you do to talk about this with your youngins. I was a kid whose parents went through it, and my mother, God bless her, just didn't know, what am I supposed to tell this kid? He broke it in half, and I don't know, because his daddy ain't coming home, and I don't know what I'm supposed to say. right? She did the best she could, but a lot of it I had to suss out as I got older. My father and I fixed our relationship at 25. He left when I was 10 because they couldn't help me process it earlier. So if I have an opportunity to make a thing for adults to use, to say, like, look, we can read this together. And this will sort of explain, because I thought it was my fault. I felt like I was being torn in half, right? I don't want to let my dad down by not going with him this holiday. But so now I'm 15, I got a job license, I gotta hit both families. I don't want nobody to feel that, right? But I'm 15. Like, is that supposed to be on me? You know what I mean? So I'm trying to figure out what can we do to use this book? Because the voice is what it is. We can, look, y'all can be altruistic if you want. It's a part of our lives. It's happening. It's going to keep happening. So we need to figure out how to create healthier spaces if it's going to happen, so that our youngers don't have to bear the brunt. And I think that's what I'm trying to sort of get at, is that, like, and your parents can still love, like my own parents, your parents can still love each other. If you read When I Was the Greatest, that's all about the very same thing. Your parents can still love each other, and be going through this thing. And it's important that we articulate even some of that. My mom, she was good about that. Like, no, love your father. It ain't work out for it. That's my guy. Right? I don't hate that man. I don't problem with that dude. We all have those situations. It's different for everybody, right? But I do think it's important for us to see that as STUNTBOY continues to evolve, you will see. Because I want to show some of that. Like, it's nuanced. Everybody who break ain't like, don't hate each other. They live up and downstairs. I'm working on the next one right now. And I want to show them, like, how do they continue to raise this child, this really incredible, imaginative kid? And how do they not cut his imagination by the seriousness of a changing family?
Thank you.
I could spend all day on this book, but let's move to Ink Burns All the Brights, because this one right here by the two Jasons. By the two Jasons, another one, just like, so much, not the book, but so much creativity in how it's presented. Can you tell us a little bit more about what inspired you to write this one?
2020. I've been trying not to write about 2020 because we still are in the middle of it. And it's still in it, and it's a little close, you know what I mean? And honestly, all of us are so traumatized, and I know nobody really want to kind of deal with it. But I just didn't know how to write about nothing else. I mean, I've been trying to write the two of us, me and the other Jason, were trying to figure out how to make something else for years. We have been working for years. For those who don't know, Jason and I put out a book in 2000. Harper Collins put out a book in 2008, I think. We wrote it in 2005. I've been doing this a long time. With Harper, and that book came, and it was a recession, so nobody bought it. I've never heard of it. I think they're re-releasing it in June, which is also mortifying because I don't want anybody to read my 19-year-old work. But here we go, right? Shout out capitalism. But this one, I was, we were sitting there, me and my buddy Jason's an artist, and I was like, we have these check-ins once a week, we're at that age, and really kind of, we know each other since college, and we're at that age where both of us are sort of like heavy on our therapy, and like really about like, I need
accountability.
I need a man in my life that I can kind of just like stand before. It's real, it's something that like a lot of us need, a lot of us don't have. But I have a few of them, and I'm grateful. I think they've saved my life in a lot of ways. Just a man that I can kind of be, that I can let it all go for, stand in front of a man, right? Because I've been surrounded by the most incredible women, and they did everything. They raised me, and I'm from a family of women, and all the things. But I also realized that there's something about somebody who is struggling with the same vulnerabilities that I had, to bear witness to me exercising and exhibiting that vulnerability. There's something about, because now both of us can get free, right? Once I do this, if I'm standing here before you, then you know that it's safe for you to do the same for me. And a lot of men have never had the opportunity to just do that, right? Without the judgment, or without the laughter, or without the jokes, or without the qualifiers. Like, it's so many men who can't like tell their brother or their best friend that they love them without adding qualifiers. Like, like without even tapping on the bro at the end, without like just look a man in the face and say, I love you, and just hold it. Like, there's freedom there. And so we had these check-ins once a week where we basically decompress and talk about what we're learning in our own therapy sessions. And he has a family and I don't, but just talk about all the changing times of our lives as grown 40-year-old men. And I'm not there yet, almost. But
So he's your elder.
He is. And one time, this one conversation, he was like, yo, man, I'm having a hard time making stuff. So my therapist told me to just keep my moleskin with me and just scribble on a train. He lives in Queens. Just scribble on a train and just kind of keep, like, jot it down. Because I've been doing that for a while, just scribbling like these little doodles. He was like, I gotta tell you, Jay, it's been like my oxygen mask. And in that moment, I'm like, oh, word. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna call you back tomorrow. I got like this idea. When I got the phone, I went downstairs in my house, got in bed, put the sheets over my head, and I started to think about how everything in 2020 is attacking the respiratory system of humans, right? So we start with the murder of George Floyd. I mean, how George Floyd was murdered, right? It was through suffocation, right? Through strangulation, right? Cutting off of air, physically. And then think about the racial uprising around the world and the tear gas, which is meant to do the same thing, right? To attack the lungs, to cause strangulation, asphyxiation, right? And then I thought about COVID and how it attacked the respiratory system. Thought about the wildfires in LA, right? Attacked the respiratory system, right? Everything was sort of trying to steal breath, trying to steal air from us in 2020. And I got to ask myself after Jason's comment, like, well, where exactly are we all finding our oxygen masks? Those of us who've been fortunate enough to survive, where exactly are we finding the thing that is going to provide us with enough air to move on one more day? It's thick out here, the teachers, but the teachers are going through with the students, the kids. Like, we gotta have grace for everybody. It's different, right? It's like, I can't be mad at the shorties, I can't be mad at the teachers, I can't be mad at the parents, right? Everybody is like just doing the best they can. And so I think for me, I realized that, like, and I'll share this, and I don't want to, this is not a sad thing for me, but it's sad for some people. I say that before I say it, but like, you realize, like, the mundanity around, like, giving hugs to people you love, like the banality of that, right? So this is what we do at peasantry until you can't do it. Yo, my father died in December, right? It's fine, right? My father died in December. And the wildest part about his death was that I couldn't hug my mother. Think about that, right? My father dies, my mother can't console me because she can't touch me because I can't afford for her to get sick. Bugged out, right? And then you realize, oh, it's your hugs that's my oxygen mask. It's our phone calls that I used to be like, Ma, I just talked to you. Now I'm like, Mom, like, I don't care what we talk about. It don't matter. We can sit on the phone for a while, right? I need this. This is gonna be the air to get you through the week, right? My older brother, who's so annoying, who I love so much, but he called me 10 times today, right? But then I'm like, yo, I need to do better because I need this. This is the only thing you really have. You know what I mean? Like, it don't matter. I got all the money and all the fancy things and all the things people say they want, and none of it mattered. All of a sudden, it was like, for what? All I really want is, like, my older brother to be over here eating Cheetos and watching scary movies, right? And that's what the book is about. Like, where do we find our oxygen masks? And as a reminder to you all that, like, we still here. We okay if we continue to look for the things that we've overlooked because we're too busy with our jobs and our lives and all the things that come along with all the things, especially as adults, right? All that stuff. It's like, yo, we still here. If we continue to look at the boring parts of our lives as the most beautiful parts, we'll survive it. Perhaps.
Okay, so you just preached to my spirit. I just want to say that, like, I needed to hear that. To look at the most boring parts of our life as the most beautiful parts of our life. I needed to hear that. I don't know if y'all need to hear that. I mean, you know, we need to hear everything he has to say, but I'm just saying, like, that was a word. Thank you, Reverend Jason.
God, even the heathens, God is you.
Okay, so.
I know they telling me to wrap it up. We got the question.
No, that was me saying, yeah.
I was about to put that next time.
Reynolds up. You can't wrap him up.
I said, this is how I'm going to do. I ain't never coming back. All the way to Columbia?
All the way to Columbia. You Look, so if you were we're gonna give someone some advice, any writers in here, any people, just creatives, people who make stuff, even if it's not a writer, you make something, you with your hands, with your mind, with your whatever, you thinking about it. What's the advice that you're giving to somebody who may be experiencing COVID block or writer's block or creative creativity block?
Yeah, just remember that, like, you know, there are a few things. Number one, we gotta sort of figure out how to keep our intentions pure. And what I mean by that is that, like, yo, I'm finding that the reason why a lot of us are struggling with making work is because we only making work to sell. And I think that when we get back to sort of being like, yo, this is, I was telling a little young recently, one of my little mentees, she was like, yo, Jay, what, she's 24, 25, working on a novel, we in the crib, just workshopping and stuff. And she like, Jay, what's changed the most after success and after all of the things that come along with it? And I was like, you know, when I was 19, when I was 17, those guys knew me at Maryland. You know, when I was 18, and you know, I was writing as a way to survive. You know, at 38, I'm writing as a way to survive. A little different though. I mean, you understand the nuance in that, right? It's like if you're not careful, it can go from a thing that is feeding you, a thing that is sort of saving your life, to a business. You got a mortgage. And I think when I'm stuck, what I always take myself back to is like, my G, you know, like, recalibrate your intention. Check yourself. Remember that, like, your whole life was dependent upon your ability to express yourself in this way. Not because of any financial gain, but because of your mental health, right? Or because this was your emotional outlet. This is where you got to hide your secrets. This was the thing that you used to sort of console your mother at the loss of all the things that she's lost in her life. This is your alchemy, right? I tell everybody, if you're a writer, you're an alchemist, right? This is true alchemy. I mean, think about it this way. You have 26 letters to work with, and that is all. And your ability to take those 26 letters and sequence them and arrange them in some strange code could change the world. That's alchemy. Right? When you really think about that, right? So take it seriously. Right? Take that seriously, right? And I think once you remind yourself of that, then you won't mind, first of all, you won't mind writing badly, first of all, right? Because you'll understand the process a little better, and you won't worry about who's going to buy it, who's going to see it, right? And second of all, you'll get back to just like true expression, right? Writing down that I'm having a hard time writing anything down is an incredible start to whatever you're going to write. Right? True expression, but we don't write that down because we're concerned about the thing that might be made that somebody else might see. Some finished product. I got all these Japanese homies who tell me stories about how in certain cultures in Japan, how there are people who go to work every day and only look at the thing that is in front of them, right? If you are a sushi chef, you know what I mean? You've heard the stories about how like you got 12 years just making rice. You just show up every day and you make rice and you just make the rice, nothing else. And you don't think about being great at making rice. You just try to be happy making rice today. And 10 years down the line, it turns out that you become great. That's a different mentality than all of us were raised with, right? It's like, I'm trying to make a thing to be great, right? Where they're like, no, be really good at a thing today in a way that makes you happy making it in the process, and do that every single day. Let's keep your lens here. We were always taught to put our lens down there. And then you sit down trying to write, and all you can think about is what's happening down there, but you can't see what's down there because you haven't even been outside in 2 years. Now you should, right? Because you think that if your inability to make a thing might actually mean that you might not be as great as you thought. Now it's checking your characters and all these other, but it's all nonsense. It's nonsense, right? This is our breath. To breathe, my G. It don't matter if it's a heavy breath or a deep breath or shallow. If this is how we breathe, right? Then just breathe. Just do it. If it's bad, it's just yours. And for those of you on the other end, and you feel like you do got something you want to share with the world, I'm with you, right? Just remember that if your fear is coming from like, yo, what if they don't like it? That's the other thing, right? Is that, okay, I make this thing, and I do make it, and I am proud of it, I do want to share it, but what if they don't like it? The best piece of advice I can give you is what one of my OGs gave me 10 years ago. I was at this restaurant, He sat me down and said, what's the matter? I said, my first novel's coming out. What if they don't like it? He said, let me tell you something. He said, if somebody were to come into my restaurant and say, I want you to make me the perfect meal. He said, you know what I would do? He said, I would close the restaurant. I would run up to the butcher up in the Bronx. I would have a piece of meat cut, a perfect piece of meat, perfect steak. He said, I would come in and I would tenderize it. I would go to the community garden, get all the best vegetables, root vegetables, potatoes, and carrots, and turn whatever goes with steak. I don't eat meat. I have no idea. But whatever goes with steak, right? I would get all those things, right? And I would make sure that they're all seasoned and flavored. And I would cook the steak to the perfect temperature, and it would be just the way it's supposed to be. And I would plate it all beautifully, and I would serve it with candlelight, and I would serve it with the perfect wine. And if you took a bite into that steak and didn't like it, I would assume it's not because I didn't cook a perfect steak. It's because he probably preferred fish. Right? Now, this is a really, really important thing, right? And I said, well, how do you know that, how will I know that I've cooked the perfect steak? And he said, if it is what you've intended it to be, it's the perfect steak. And what this is about is how we take everything so personal. Just because a person don't like your work, don't mean that your work ain't good. It just ain't what they expect. Which means that you gotta make sure that you focus on optimizing so that you can actually stand on that work and you know that that you gave it 1,000%. So that when they tell you that they don't like it, you can literally say like, that's because it's not for you, but not because I ain't give it 1,000%.
Man, I think your next book might need to be a life advice book.
You will never get one of them from me.
No. Listen, actually, we don't have to. We can just watch your walk because your walk is the ministry, right? Okay. So it is. And now I want to take some questions from the audience because
yeah, let's do it.
Would y'all like to y'all have some questions you want to ask?
No question's a bad question too. The shorties know that everything on the table. Yes, sir.
Do we have a wireless mic? Okay, you can just go ahead and stand up and say it loud and proud.
What's your name? If you under the age of 30, you gotta say your name. What's your name? My man, it's good to see you. I don't know you. Always say yes. You know what I mean?
My question is, do you want to make like a book? You know how STUNTBOY has her friend
Zola.
Zola?
Yeah.
You ever want to make a book about her?
Probably. You know what, man? I'm trying to figure out how many STUNTBOYs there are going to be.
I see a lot.
So it is.
I seriously have the book right here.
Baxter, come on up here, Baxter. Where you at? Come on up here. Let's give it up for Baxter.
I tell everybody, if you go to work every day, you got one boss.
So Baxter,
I got 10 million bosses, and they're all under the age of 12.
well, you're about to have a meeting, a staff meeting with your boss right now. I'm going to step aside for this 5 minutes of this interview with Baxter.
Step up here?
Baxter, come on, you stand right here. You sit right here. This is your turn, right?
Get your book and take
So you can take off your mask if you want. I want you to ask him any question that you want to ask.
Give me your book. I'm gonna take care of you while you ask me the question. I got you.
So you can talk to him.
I had another question.
Yes, sir.
But I honestly don't remember.
Put you on the spot. That's why I said
That's okay.
And I also have another question.
okay.
Is there like, you know how Herbert Singletary the worst was always, the bad guy, and then he was the good guy?
Yeah.
Will there ever be like another bad guy?
So I'm so glad you're asking these questions because I'm in the middle of writing the next one and I'm like stuck. So this is good, right? I'm like, okay, boom, bad guy. You know what I'm saying? So there will be another bad guy. I'm working on it tonight. There will be another bad guy. And we're going through the Zola book. We're going to figure out the Zola book. Because Zola the coolest person in the story. You know what I mean?
I appreciate Zola. B-A-X-T-E-R.
Gotcha. I get like that too. Baxter. Matter of fact, I gotta find a character. I'm gonna put you in the book. I just gotta figure out. You can't. But you can't be a bad guy, so I gotta pick somebody good.
Thank you.
You got it. Good. My man back somewhere. You one of the kids somewhere. We'll see you. So.
I see another child. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna prioritize the children just because. I remember when I was a kid, my parents would take me to see an author, and it was like seeing a superstar. And so I just want to make sure that I pass that along, that they get to see up close and personal the people who write. Is there another child here that may want to be with?
Your parents will take you to see all.
Taking you to see, yeah. Come on up. Is there one? Come on up. Come on up.
She take me to see all. She must have been busy. What's up, man?
Hello.
How you doing?
Good.
What's your name?
Bryce.
Nice to meet you.
Cool. I just had a question about like Miles Morales, the book. I recently got it. I just wanted to see like how much you enjoyed writing it.
You want the truth?
Yes.
Yeah, it was my least favorite experience. I don't want to lie to you, man, because I thought I would never lie to a kid. You know, but let me tell you what happened. So they called me, Marvel called me and said, hey, we got this project that we think you're perfect for. I said, no. They were like, oh, Spider-Man. I said, no, I'm good. At the time I was writing a long way down, I was writing something else was going on. I was in the middle of a lot of stuff. I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they had a group, they had like 10 kids who were in school suspension, all little black boys, right? So I'm already feeling away, right? I'm like, all right, like, once you come talk to these kids who were in ISS, I'm like, of course, let's see what's happening. I go in, they're like, yo, so what you working on now? And I'm like, oh, I got to talk about this elevator coming, boo, 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 right? They're like, that's weird. And then I'm like, Marvel called me and they asked me to do this Spider-Man thing. It was like Spider-Man. And I was like, well, they say it's Miles Morales. They're like, who's Miles Morales? I was like, oh, he's like Black Spider-Man. And they're like, what? This is the whole thing. Like, yo, he gonna be joyous, he gonna do all these questions. And then I realized, like, oh, I should probably do it, right? So I called them back and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do it. They're like, okay, what's your idea? And I was like, I haven't really thought about that yet. But then I was like, you know what? I'm thinking they're gonna shoot my ideas down. Have you already read that book? Then okay, a few of y'all. So if you haven't read the Miles Morales, my version of Miles Morales, it's a school to prison pipeline story, but it's using Spider-Man, right? And I just knew they were gonna be like, nah, right? Like you out, you're not doing this. But they were like, sounds good. So now I'm on the hook, but oh, I really gotta do this. So then they say, you have 28 days to get it done.
Wow.
28 days. I went away, this month of August, I went to Rhode Island and hold up in the woods. And on the 28th day, I turned it in. It was a miserable time. But just need more time, you know what I mean? But if the secret is, I'm probably doing another one. Like soon. Like soon. So we'll see. I keep you posted.
One more question.
Yeah, man.
Did you know that you're in Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse?
I do know that I'm in Spider-Man. Be quiet. For those who don't know, I'm in Spider-Man to Spider-Verse, but I'm not gonna tell you where I am.
Y'all gotta find it.
You gotta find it. Thank you, man.
Man, like this is so cool. Okay, do I see one more child, and then I know I'm gonna get to the adults. I'm sorry, it's just really important to me. When I was growing up, I saw Jerry Pinkney and all these, Ella Willis Springfield, and it was just a thing. So I just want to make that space. Yes. Any more? Okay, all right. So let's move. There's one more. Okay, let's move to.
And if you're shy, you ain't gotta come up here. If you're shy, we call on you.
I know. Okay, so now those who are young at heart, let's have an adult question, and then I'll get to yours. Okay? Can you either speak loud and proud, or?
Hi, I was wanting to ask, how often do your dreams and your journaling work their way into your storytelling? And has it changed during COVID since we are to ourselves in a different way as artists?
Okay, let's repeat the question real quick.
Repeating the question right quick for the live stream folks. How do your dreams come into your writing, and how has that changed with COVID-19 since we're so alone and just inside?
And then there was one last part of the question, right? Or was that it?
Yeah, and journaling.
And journaling.
Does journaling work itself into your storytelling in a different way?
Journaling more than dreams. Unfortunately, because of COVID and because of some other things, I don't sleep very well. I'm trying to remedy that now. So my dreams, like I rarely get to sort of REM state. So I just don't ever remember if they're happening. I don't remember them. I sleep super light. I don't sleep very much, and so if I'm not dreaming happening, unfortunately. But I do journal a lot, and it always shows itself. I just be writing. I kind of just get busy in a journal. Like it's all. There'll be someday some archive will happen, and no one will be able to understand a word of it. It's just me kind of getting it all out the best I can while I can, right? What I do though is I also keep I usually don't have it today, but I usually keep a little notebook with me. And that's just for like terms of phrases. There are things that you hear that's like, ooh, and I have to write down, or new words that somebody would say, and I'm like, what is that even? You know what I mean? Then I write that down, and I go back to that stuff a lot. I don't know what it even means, but there will be just certain phrases or strange things that you see. Like, I remember years ago that somebody had told me about, I want to build this this project I'm doing. If it works, it'll be the empathy machine. And I was like, what an interesting term, right? An empathy machine. What is that? What does that mean? Or the word STUNTBOY, I think is a really cool word that I just wrote down years ago. Like, that's interesting. You know what I mean? That'll find its way into something, Or Portico, I probably wrote that down, somewhere along the way. It's like, keep that, you know what I mean? Or Baxter. Oh, right? Like, that's the way it kind of works for me. More than anything, just keeping something to put it down in like strengths.
Okay, she's been waiting so patiently. Can you just speak loud and proud though?
Of course, teacher voice.
Yes.
Hi.
Outside voice.
So first, I just have to thank you both as a mother of a Black son and a teacher of a very diverse populace, that I feel like you have not just opened the door, but you have built the door for many of our young readers and writers. And the thanks I feel for that is just can't be measured. But I've taught both Ghost and Boy the Black Suit, and the overwhelm. My kids get sucked in, and especially Ghost, they want to read like it. I've never taught a book in 30 years that has caused kids to read more and want a sequel. But both end with such ambiguity. Yeah. And is that, so we work as teachers of writers to build a hook, but you always end with that hook. Yeah. And how intentional is that? Because it drives my kids crazy, and they love it because it builds that desire for the next one at the same time. So I'd love to feel like what your thought process in that is.
So my mother hates the end of all my books. She reads every book first, and she's always like, how do you like the book, man? I have some questions, always. I have some thoughts, I have some questions. It comes from, first of all, it is intentional. For a few different reasons, though. The biggest piece of editorial advice I've ever been given was by my editor when I the first draft, when I was greatest of all you writers, and here specifically long-form writers. This is very important. I wrote the book, and at the end of the book, I pretty much solved all the problems. I got, the end type of deal. And she was like, man, Jason, it's such a skilled writer. It's a shame you don't trust your ability. And I said, well, what do you mean? She was like, you've given us, 250, 260 pages. The reader can do a little work, right? They can sort of take the rest, right? The 2 or 3 pages that come at the end, they can do that on their own. The adage is that you always start your book a chapter late and end your book a chapter early. And so what started to happen over time was I started to perfect this idea of how do I end in a liminal space? Because that's really how life goes, right? The Boy in the Black Suit, the end of that book was one of my favorite movies, is they're standing outside the church and they're holding hands, and she squeezes his hand and he squeezes her hand. And you don't know, they don't even technically date. Right? They're not in a romantic situation, right? It's none of that. It's just sort of like the subtlety And there's so much in that hand, in the grasping of those hands. Like, it doesn't matter what happens next, right? In this moment, I got you, you got me. This friendship, this thing's gonna keep us steady, right? That's all that needs to be said, right? And the end of Ghost, right? People are always like, what happened to Ghost? I want to read Patina, which was intentional, right? To sort of catapult you forward, especially for the youngins. But it really was about like, yo, the book begins with a gunshot, it ends with a gunshot. Does it really matter if he wins the race? The fact that he's at the race is the victory, right? And so people are like, I want the end. This is the end, right? This is the end. You just, it's not what you want, but you're not thinking about it in this way. But every book, long way down, right? The end of long way down. Very intentional, and kids get mad about it, but I'm like, look, it's my job to stoke your imagination. I respect you too much to give you the answer. Respect you too much to tie it up for you, right? Like, I'd rather you sort of activate your imaginations and tackle on a page or two, right? Trust yourself, learn how to do that now. So when you're 30, you still have an imagination to pull from, right? All American boys. Are they cool? Are they boys good now? Are they friends? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. There's no way to end that book in a way that actually honors the child who reads it. Because if you have the officer go to jail, every kid I know would be like, that's fake. Turn it into a fairy tale. Right? And if you have the officer walk, every kid I know would be like, what was the point of you putting us through gratuitous pain? There was nothing I could have done. That is the end. That moment with those two boys. I'm focused on the people that matter. These two kids. Doesn't matter if they meet, it doesn't. Doesn't matter if they ever know each other, it doesn't. Just like it doesn't matter that there are kids suffering and, on the border that we should care about without having ever met them. Because we're still human. And so if our empathy has been lost, we're in trouble, right? And I want the young people to remember that. It don't matter if they ever meet each other. You have to know me to love me. You have to know me to want the best for me. Right? Simple things like that I'm trying to sort of slightly and very sort of casually impart into our young world the best I can. So that's why there will be no ribbon endings. Everything will be an ellipsis, because that's what life really is. Nothing actually is. So it's not a thing.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to take some questions from the back. Okay, we'll start with, yes, you right here.
I think the last time I got
Good to see you. You probably think I was on record. You thought I wasn't. Y'all show up being like, I'm not gonna know. We met like 6 times. I know who you are. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. I think the last time I got to see you in person was with Ibram Kendi, literally a week before COVID shut everything down.
Yeah.
And I will just never forget, like, one of the most powerful things you said is they asked you, how do you maintain hope? And you said, and it just sustained me this whole time. You said, I maintain hope because of our young people.
Yeah.
You said our young people are the most courageously empathetic generation we've ever seen. And I wrote that. I call them Jason Reynolds isms. And I wrote that down as a teacher. That really sustained me, and I shared that with my kids, and I think it made them feel very validated and very seen. And I'm just wondering if you could speak to that again for everyone else, and to add to that, as a teacher in Virginia, we have this new governor, we're feeling all these pressures, we want to do the right work. Like, what can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Y'all killing me in Virginia, man. Y'all ain't playing no games with me in Virginia. So first and foremost, listen, I truly believe that young people are the antidote to hopelessness. I truly feel that way. And I don't have kids of my own. And I know that, look, and I think that statement does not mean that there aren't moments that I'm annoyed or frustrated, right, or upset at the youngins, right, or disappointed, right, and the youngins. But I still believe that their generation, they different. And we only focus on the parts of them that are different that we don't like, but they're really different in a whole lot of ways that we probably should like. And we just choose not to give them that little bit of buck. It's almost like we try to manage their ego in a weird way. Right? It's like, I don't want to tell you how really y'all revolutionary, how really y'all have the ability to actually turn a corner in a way that I don't know if any other generation actually has had the ability. We've had moments of corner turning, right? Huge moments, right? I'm never going to strip the 60s of what the 60s were, ever. But what they had to do to get that big will take you half the time to do, right? What you're able to, what young people are able to do, how they're able to mobilize is very different than what Dr. King had to do to mobilize. very different, right? I mean, we've seen it, and I think we just don't really pay attention, or we kind of poo-poo on the protests and stuff. Like a protest literally is not solving anything, and that's a very different conversation that we can actually have at some point. But I don't think that we should take this activity or this action from the young people who showed up at the Women's March, or who showed up at the Fight for Our Lives, or who showed up at all the Black Lives Matter marches to George Floyd and everybody else, right? It's kids out there. And I don't ever want to take it. And I'm on the internet, or I'm in the classroom watching them plan. Right? I've been in schools in Brooklyn where kids on stage protesting, lock their teachers out of the school with a list of demands, real demands about how they feel like they're being mistreated. I applaud that. We all should. Instead, we're like, yo, this is disobedient. As if obedience has ever changed anything. Right? As if we really want to raise obedient humans. Right? And look, the Black parents in the room, you know, it's complicated. You're like, I need to go down and be obedient. It's a matter of life or death. That's real too, right? But at the end of the day, if we create a space for that young person's ears to also be a little irreverent, then that kid might be a little safer. Right? Because those kids are going to grow up to be a politician, a judge, a cop, a teacher, right? Is it pie in the sky? Maybe, but I'd rather lean that way. I'd rather lean that way, right? I'd rather decide, and all the things that we can teach them about have nothing to do with their generation and everything to do with their age. So for us, it's like, yo, they're too sensitive, they're too irresponsible. All they want to do is make TikTok dances. All they care about is rap music. I'm like, Slim, they 15. They 15. Like, if you say that to me when they're 30, then I hear you. But I can't hear you talking about a 15-year-old for being 15. Right? Give them a little grace, give them a little slack, hold them accountable for when they step in it, and they always step in it. Right? Deal with the fact that they don't want to hear what you have to say because you ain't want to hear what your OG had to say either. Give them a little grace, right? That's all I'm asking. I think if you can maintain those relationships, it's impossible for you to be hopeless. How you gonna look at Baxter and be hopeless, yo? Like, how can you be hopeless? So that's not happening. Y'all done had it. All the old heads who mean and angry and they mad, they hold on, they last for a bit of their time. Hey, y'all do that on your own. I'm gonna be over here with the youngins, happy. Trying to figure out how to learn from them and walk beside them to figure out how to mold the world to what they want the world to be. If you ain't with it, that's unfortunate. You're gonna lose, unfortunately. That's the truth. Keep up. Keep up. If they say this is my pronoun, guess what? That's where we at. And they leading that. This is what I want you to call me, then that's what you will be called. Imagine the power and the confidence it takes for a kid to look you in the face and say, this is what I want you to call me.
Thank you.
Yeah. Listen, be mad if you want.
Okay, so we're gonna take 2 more questions. I see, oh man, it's gonna make me feel bad. I don't wanna be the one to not
These are the last three. Oh,
okay.
Last 4. All right, we'll do lightning round. It's good.
Okay, lightning round, and then just this lady too.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so, all right, so let's start with the beautiful queen with the cheetah print on, okay? I see you, all right.
I teach middle school and I teach K-12, and it's interesting to hear this conversation about seeing hope in the students where I feel like a lot of times right now, I'm seeing a lot of students who don't have hope because they've experienced this whole pandemic and they see their adults not doing the things that need to be done to take care of them and make sure the world's left for them. And I'm wondering what I can go back and say to my students to help them.
Yeah.
That apathy.
Let me repeat the question just because her question is, what can she teaches middle school and she wants to know, what can she go back to say to her students who may be feeling hopeless because of what's going on? Did I summarize that? Okay. All right. Okay.
You know, I think first, as adults, we got to realize, or we have to try to be okay with the fact that, like, hey, right now, it's okay to be in the valley. I think that it's unfair for us to need them to stay up. The people, they got feelings, yo. It runs deep. It's true emotion. So if you sad, you got a right to be. You feel a little hopeless right now, homie? You got a right to feel that. Right? Like first, I think we have to allow space for them to just be sad, yo. It's okay. The rest of us are sad. Unfortunately, you gotta get up, you gotta get yourself together. Gotta go out here, gotta get the chicken and take care of this household and these kids and whatever else, right? We gotta do that. But if we had the opportunity and the time to not do those things, we just be sitting at home sad too. In our feelings. right? Like I feel away, I miss my friends, I miss being safe. We do the same thing. So I want to first honor the fact that they have right to feel that way, right? The other thing though is I think you have to use the things, this is something I think about all the time. We gotta use the things they love, right? We have like they don't want, you don't have to like the things that they like, but you have to like that they like the things. Everybody understand what I'm saying, right? You don't have to like the things that they like, but they want to know that you like the fact that they like the things, right? And so I always tell my little youngers, I'm like, yo, I don't really understand TikTok, you know what I'm saying? I've been trying and I've been on it, and it's funny a lot of it, but I like TikTok and all the other things that they are comfortable using, right? But they do sort of escape to, because if we were able to explain to them the power of what they really are doing, I think that they would look at it differently. Here's what I mean by that. It were these kids in Harlem. I was at an event in Harlem. And I was like, man, y'all know that the 10 of y'all in this room are probably the most powerful people in the planet when it comes to changing culture. And then like, prove it, how can that be? Like, come on, so I mean, God, we, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying, we here as a special program, I'm trying to say how to Julie, you know what I mean? Like all the, you know what I mean, real things that these kids are dealing with. And I was like, all right. I was like, what's the latest dance? What's y'all latest dance, right? And I think it was the time, it was probably like the Sheep, or such years ago, or a Whoa or something, one of the shared shoes, one of these, right? One of them. And I was like, all right, so let's go on YouTube. I was like, that dance, or even like the Millie Rock came out, right? And that's in New York, that's a very New York thing, right? And at first, and I was like, all right, so let's look at the Millie Rock or Sheep or any of these dances. I want you to type it in YouTube in your search bar, and then I want you to type any single country you can think of after, right? So type in Millie Rock Japan. And what you're gonna see is a whole bunch of Japanese kids doing your dance. Type in Millie Rock Mogadishu. And what you're gonna see is a whole bunch of little kids in Mogadishu, right? A whole bunch of East African kids getting busy. Type in, Millie Rock Mumbai. You're gonna see a whole bunch of little Indian kids getting busy over there. They add this into their own pocket, their own culture, right? I'm like, imagine that. A dance that started on your block, you and your friends fooling around with a camera that's now influencing and impacting the entire world. And the only person who don't know is you. So when I think about the little youngers who are hopeless, I'm always thinking about how, the truth of the matter is TikTok, whether we like it or not, it's keeping a lot of these youngsters alive. Right? It's causing pressure in other ways, as we all know, right? But there are other things that are happening. Think about it. If my little brother is like, hey, I gotta do this dance challenge, and that dance challenge that 2 million kids are doing, then somehow they've been able to create community in a suffering world. They just don't know that's what it is, that's what's happening. So sometimes I think it requires us to sort of re-articulate and shift perspective and find new language around the things they're already doing. And you'd be surprised that changes the way it looks. It's no different than you thanking a child for coming to class. Kids don't expect to be thankful for coming to class because every teacher and parent in their lives are saying, this is what you're supposed to do. I got my education, you gotta get yours. But if you thank a kid for coming to class, the kid automatically walks in the classroom, feels appreciated, and the whole temperature of the classroom changes. Small things that we can do, right? It don't have to be a browbeat. It don't have to be like, get yourselves together, kids, we're still alive, right? It could be some of these tiny things that I'm so grateful for y'all coming, because I know it's hard. Thank you for showing up. Or let's think about how TikTok can influence everything. What other thing can become viral on TikTok that you think might make everybody feel better? And have them brainstorm. What would you want right now? What can we do? Could we do a TikTok? Right? Like, these are things that I think young people will be a little more engaged in and can maybe find some of that hope again. Even if it's fleeting. A little bit is still allowed in this situation. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how we gotta roll with it. But give them a little praise. It's not that they sad.
Okay.
We all sad secretly.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, this isn't about me, it's about these 3 sweet little loves over here.
Uh-oh.
That's all, I have 3 students over here looking at shaking.
See that? This is why I can't invite the teachers, man.
This is my little Justin, this is my girl Kennedy, this is my girl Gigi. Justin is an 8th grader, he is gonna make the big move to high school next year.
Okay.
And I just want you to tell him something that's gonna make this transition brilliant for him. Because this boy right here, oh, he is a beautiful boy. He is athletic, he is strong, he is so smart, and he hates me right now.
That's okay. That's what's up. She embarrassed you, bro. She got you. Hey, listen, I'm gonna tell you, man. You hold on to that. There will be days when you wish that somebody would come and embarrass you, brother. There will be days when you hold on to that. Somebody who loves you. That's somebody who loves you. I think the piece of advice I have, the piece of advice I give all the youngsters, is something that adults it's taken so many of us a very long time to learn. And that is the greatest gift you can give yourself is yourself. The one thing that's hardest to do is just being you. That's gonna be a challenge. Right? But if you can just hold on to whoever you are, if you go hold on to whatever you feel when she come over here and love up on you, that feeling, hold on to that, right? Because that's a pure feeling. And there's a lot of influences, a lot of things going on. Just remember, the greatest gift you give yourself is yourself. It don't ever work out to be somebody else. You know what I mean? It don't ever work out. That's the cheapest costume in the world. One of them old school dollars go Halloween costume, the plastic joint, the rubber band. That's how it is. And the other thing I'll tell you is, and this is, for the teachers in the room, not that teacher, but to the teachers in the room who are always challenging some of the natural inclinations of our young people. They're gonna be teachers who unfortunately might not always see, right? And adults in general, and students, not everybody gonna see. Some people are gonna be upset about your natural way. This is the story of my life. Right? I do what I want to do, I move how I want to move, and not everybody's comfortable with it, but it's who I am, right? And what I wish somebody would have told me when I was your age is that everything that makes them mad about you are usually things that make you mad. So be careful about changing some of that, right? You might have to learn how to sort of use it in different ways, right? If you a clown, right? You're a clown, ain't nothing wrong with being a clown. Nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with talking, snapping. Ain't nothing wrong with roasting anybody. I'm with it, right? You'll have to figure out how to learn to wield it in certain ways, right? But don't ever let it be taken from you because some teacher tells you that you doing that is going to be that. No. Whatever makes them mad, usually things that make you mad. The last thing I want you to know, and this would be against everything that this thing that people hate me to say, but it's true, is no matter what, do your very best, okay? Do your very best. I do mean that. But whatever you do, don't ever allow any of these grades to attach themselves to your psyche. I know it's really important. I know we gotta get to the next level, whatever that might be. You need these sort of markers to sort of do all of that. I get it. But my G, if for some reason you get a C, do not ever assume that you are an average person. If for some reason you do worse than that, do not ever let that attach itself to your character, to who you know you to be. You feel me? These grades don't always mean they assess your work. They don't assess your identity. And you make sure you hold on to that, all right? No matter what, you hold on to that. That's all I hate.
Last question.
And then we're going to do the last few questions.
Yes, and then what's going to happen after this is I would like to, just so you know, when we get to this last question, then I'm going to call up our two princes that were here before to take a picture. And then we'll go into signing books, okay? So if possible, please don't like run up to the stage. We're gonna do it this way just because of COVID-19, and then we'll go to signing books. Okay, all right. Who was the last? We had the last two. Did you go yet? No, okay, so you go first, all right?
Hi, I'm a library media specialist, and I wanted to know what message would you share with librarians across the nation, because I feel like we're on the front lines of protecting choice. I've had the opportunity to pilot curriculum around STAMP and watch my students and their reaction to reading that book. And their biggest question is, why are they keeping it from us? And why can we not continue to learn? And I said, you have to learn to be disruptors when you are, challenged and you're hearing different things about your history. So I just want to know what message you would have for us librarians who are on the front lines, who are constantly trying to protect our students ability to have choice.
What message would I give? Thank you. I think, you know, I have a real sweet spot for librarians. I actually think that the constitution of a librarian is the constitution that all of us should adopt. Because what they understand is, I don't have to agree with it. It still deserves to exist.
Yeah.
It deserves to, that's their whole jam. It deserves to live on the shelf. It deserves to be available for those that do, for those that are curious. You know, I think that the arbiters of curiosity. I think that they are the containers of possibility. And so I don't have advice for you. If anything, I feel like I just want to honor the work that you all do. Because I know it's difficult. Librarians losing their gigs over work that some of us have made. I've had librarians be threatened, like their jobs. I mean, superintendents in certain states that won't be said. Like, yo, I'm watching your email. You can't email with Jason, or you can't, you know, no phone calls to Jason or to the public. All this silly stuff. And it's like, no, this is illegal, right? You know what I mean? There's a lot going on, that's right. But it's also the reason I know that, like, the work is worth doing and your work is worth doing. If they pushing back, it's because we're doing something. They know that we know something. And they know that you got also have power. And I also just know that once the young people are on this side, if we can get them to see how big they truly are, then like their disruption, I tell them all the time, if there's any definitions I want young people to understand, it is the difference between irreverence and irresponsibility. But I want young people to be irreverent. Shake the table. You mad? You want more stuff? You want more information? Shake the table. Let's galvanize. Let's figure it out. Right? Let's make it clear. You know, there are things we can do. And it might be, and parents are, you know, we might get in trouble, but it is what it is. Trouble really ain't gonna be, you be acting like trouble. The worst thing that ever happened to us is for people to tell us that like every time you got in trouble, it was going on your record in school. And then I got to college and I was like, where's my record at? There's no dinner. I'm like, so wait, the suspension, okay. So interesting, right? It's like, nah, you can get in trouble. As long as you're not irresponsible, right? And so the difference between irreverent and irresponsible is simply intention, thoughtfulness, and planning. Think it through. Don't be screaming just to be screaming. Don't be hollering just to be hollering. Don't make a mess of things because you like mess, right? Nah. But if you are intentional and thoughtful and purposeful, and you're irreverent, and the reverence has always changed the world, right? And so I just want to say kudos to you, and I would ask us all to give our librarians around the world. Last question. Ready? Last one, yeah.
I'm an artist and producer.
Word.
And I just want to ask you, throughout your whole journey, I know that for all creatives, even painters, literature is a very important part of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to just convey words and touch people's lives. So how did you mentioned earlier that our ability to create is our superpower. And sometimes in our families, we kind of get overlooked and shunned and even ridiculed for even having a little extra spice. So how did you protect your energy and your gift and be able to reach people when the time is right?
Yeah. You talking.
And so how do you, what's the best way to just protect that energy?
I'm gonna tell you, so let me repeat the question. They're saying that like, yo, as an artist, you know, what happens when like some of that smoke is coming from your family, right? They may not always understand it in it, right? What happens when, you know, how do you protect that energy? How do you sort of maintain that moxie to continue to make the things that you know you make? First of all, this is such a good question that I think about it often. First of all, there are things about us that only we know. I tell the youngest 5, 6 years old, hey, mama know a lot. She knows everything about you. It's the truth, right? There are things about us that only we know, right? That's my mother. My mother always says, oh, Jay, you know how I go. You got your public life, you got your private life, and you got your secret life. And your secret life is where all this is, right? And you hold on to that little secret, that little bit, even if they know that you're making it, they don't know how much it means to you. you. But you gotta clean that, right? You gotta clean and know that this is the thing that's mine and mine alone, right? But the other thing is, as much of it is hours and hours alone, I don't know if I make it if I didn't have the greatest friends. Yo, we don't talk about friendship enough. And you just need one, right? And everybody who know me, people who've been in my life, like outlets, people who know me know, like, I got like my homeboy Aaron, known Aaron for 35 years. And it didn't matter. My mother didn't understand what I was doing. She wasn't happy about the fact that I moved to New York to chase a dream. How did she understand what she had never imagined? I'm not even mad at this other thing we got. Don't be mad about it. It don't serve us to be upset about it. Truth is that we shouldn't expect nobody else to understand our dream. Right? I mean, just like any other dream, it's too ephemeral. It's too ethereal for people who live grounded lives to recognize. And I ain't mad at nobody for living a grounded life because it's scary on this side. Which you know. It's scary over here. It's risky over here. And I ain't mad at nobody for not wanting to do the triple work it takes to do this, right? But I have my friends, a few, who are like, hey, we know she don't get it. We know your dad don't get it. We know your stepmom don't get it, but we get it. Because we see you make it. We were shooting in the gym, right? We see you. We know that you got this thing. And I think those folks who are still my day ones. I mean, my homie Big Jeff in the house, somebody I know. He knew me back then when I was a teenager, trying to get it going, right? And I think they sometimes we gotta talk about friendship more often. These are like lifesavers for real. We talk about romantic love all the time. We talk about familial love. Yo, friendship is, we really gotta start drilling down on how important it is to find a solid friend. You know what I mean? If you do that, they save you, but you can't save yourself.
Man, thank you, Jason, for getting all of our lives right today. Thank you, everybody, for these amazing questions. Thank you, Busboys, for always having the most prolific, profound, and dynamic, powerful, and humble authors coming here. And now, let's just give it up for this team. Our two princes that came up. I want us to take a picture together. And I don't want to put your teacher. If you guys want to come up, these three right here, you can. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. Okay. All right. Okay, you don't have to. But if you come up, we're gonna take a quick picture and then we'll get to sign. And thank you everybody for coming.
Sorry, remember to please not rush up here. We want to be cautious of one another with COVID as well here in the area. We will be having book sales right over there where you saw me standing right before. And if we could just do one more round of applause for Jessica. All right, folks, thank you guys so much. Please remember to close out with your server and tip them nice. They took care of you. And have a great rest of your evening. Bye.
Here you go.